Hello, lovely friend. I am Dr. Mary Barson.
And I'm Dr. Lucy Burns.
We are doctors
and weight management and metabolic health experts.
And this is the Real Health and Weight Loss Podcast. Hello, lovely friend. Dr. Mary here from Real Life Medicine, joined by my lovely doctor colleague, Dr. Lucy. How are you, lovely one?
I am really good. And if anyone is watching any clips of this, you'll see I've got my slick back hair because I've just got out of the pool having done my early morning swim. So, just polishing my halo and reminding myself what an awesome job I'm doing.
I think that's very, very sensible. That celebrating your progress is a key part to being able to continue progressing well. So yay for you, Lucy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I think you're right. Most people, including us, are not very good at celebrating. It feels sometimes, like, oh, wow, well, you woohoo, you want a reward for, moving your body. And the answer is yes, I do. I do want a reward for moving my body.
Yes, as you should, as you most definitely should. So today we're talking about a big topic. I reckon it's something that I get asked possibly more than anything else. I get told, actually. I get told this. Dr. Mary, I know what I should be doing. I just can't seem to do it. It's the knowing-doing gap. And I think people often fall into this big chasm of shame because they feel like just because they know what they should be doing means that they're useless and weak-willed and lazy and slothful and just greedy if they're not doing it. And I think this is where people come unstuck probably the most often. So today we're going to talk about the knowing-doing gap.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people's response to the knowing-doing gap is to tell themselves or to tell me or you, I just need a good kick up the pants. And if you've ever said that to yourself or ever told somebody else that, we're going to explain to you today why that solution seems tempting, but why it doesn't actually work, why that response doesn't help you. And we will tell you what will help you.
Absolutely. We don't need to get out the big whip. What people need is a few more tools and a little bit more understanding. So I don't think we necessarily need to define what the gap is. I think most people would know what it is. It's this frustrating space between, what you feel like you should be doing and what it is that you're actually doing day to day.
Yes, absolutely.
We should talk about some of the reasons why people get stuck in this gap, this knowing-doing gap.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest reasons is overwhelm, especially if our brains get stuck in survival mode because life is stressful, life is hard, there might be extra things going on, extra responsibilities being thrown around. Our brain will just naturally want to retreat back into what feels safe and what feels comfortable. And safe means familiar. It means predictable. It means low effort. And so our brains will be less willing to try new things, less willing to take a risk, that trying something new has a little flavor of risk of failure. And that is one reason. I think sometimes it is simple overwhelm. It's definitely not the only reason, but it is a big reason. And when we're in this state, our brains can really register change as a threat. And threats are scary. And so we retreat back into what's normal and safe.
And the tricky thing is that what is normal and safe doesn't actually mean good for you. That's the paradox of the whole thing. Normal and safe means familiar to you. So what you've done in the past, whether it's, good for you or not, is familiar, and that's what your brain will do when it's overwhelmed. Which is why if you've spent, many years, like I certainly used to do, sitting on the couch watching telly at 11 o'clock at night saying go to bed, but not going to bed, that's where I always go. So weird, but I always go there when I'm overwhelmed, when I'm stressed. And even now, it's the default mechanism. And so I have to be really conscious of this behavior, recognizing that it's like a barometer. When I'm staying up late watching whatever on telly or even, scrolling on my phone and I'm not going to bed, that's like a little warning bell to me. Okay, Lucy, what's going on for you? Not, God, Lucy, go to bed, you idiot, which is what I used to say. Now it's what's going on for you.
That's right. Being curious and trying to figure out why are you in this overwhelm? What can be done about it? Even just giving yourself a little bit of understanding and a little bit of kindness, even just seeing yourself, it can help you feel better.
Absolutely. And as part of overwhelm, I think, the next reason we see a lot is decision fatigue. So decision fatigue comes up in sort of two ways. One, it can be for people who bear a large cognitive load, and that is often women who are particularly mums who are working, managing kids, parents, workplaces, and domestic life. There's a lot of decisions that get made every day, and by 5 o'clock, you've just run out of capacity and you're just too tired to make another decision. So you just, again, default to what is easy or familiar, the least resistance. Your resolve is all just, dwindled away.
Yep. And deciding not to decide is of course a decision, but moving into that default state of whatever it is, takeaway, toast, nuggets and chips.
Yeah.
It can feel like the easy option, and it can feel like the way that our brain wants to go, even though as you may be sitting there eating the nuggets and chips, you're just filled with this sort of as frustration. Why am I doing this? This is not what I want to do. But there are reasons why this is happening. And there are things you can do to, help overcome this. But we need to understand what is going on for us. I think that's very, very important.
Absolutely. And the other, I guess then I was just going to extrapolate, I guess, on those 2 points of overwhelm and decision fatigue is the sort of third point, which we've spoken about before, which is when you've actually got too much choice, the tyranny of too many options. So you open the fridge and you can see you've bought all the veggies, you've got all the stuff there, and you just look and you can't quite decide what to eat. It's like going into your wardrobe, you can't decide what to wear. Going to the video shop in the olden days, you can't decide what to watch, aka Netflix now. It's too many options. And again, so it's like another decision. Whereas when you limit the choices, it's actually easier. It's so easy when you've got less or fewer, use good English, fewer options.
You take it off your cognitive load is extremely important, because our cognitive load is finite. We do not have an infinite capacity to hold things, to remember things, to choose things. So cutting down your available choices is extremely helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always make the same dinner for my kids on busy days. It's always the same, and they don't even seem to notice or care. I make it's usually grilled chicken with cut up cucumbers, cut up tomatoes, maybe some cut up carrot, and that's it. And that's just like when I can't decide, when I can't think what to do, I just do that. And I reckon they eat that 3 times a week and they don't seem to care, and it just makes my life easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's really interesting. For many of us, we had the same breakfast cereal day in, day out. You just kind of got out of bed, got put the kettle on, poured the cereal. Like there was no decision. You just did it. It's so interesting how we can limit decisions and it doesn't feel like restriction. It's just what you do.
Totally.
One of the other reasons that we find people with the knowing doing gap, and it's a little bit like the overwhelm, is that they feel like there's so much to do. They've got to eat well, prioritize protein, eat low carb, get sunshine, do a cold plunge, do a hot spa, do have your creatine, don't forget your vitamin D. What about the omega-3s? Go to bed on time, get up early, sleep well, don't sleep too much, don't sleep too little. It's like, oh my God, it's a full-time job looking after yourself. So people don't always know where to start, and they feel like they need an entire makeover. That whole, I just need to run away to the deserted island, and get off the life train so that I can focus on myself.
That's it. And you need to just be able to drop everything and change everything at once, or there's no point in changing anything. And most of us mere mortals aren't able to completely change the way that we shop, cook, feed our family, move our body, sleep all at once. That's usually not really possible. But we don't need to make useful, meaningful change. That isn't necessary, but it's often the story of the brain, a story our brain will tell us. And the stories our brain tells us are extremely important. They play a really big role.
Yes, and they lead us in, I guess, to our next reason, which can be subconscious emotional blocks and past identity. And this will be one of the things that online trainers on Instagram will not talk about because they don't know about it as part of it. And they will just tell you what to do without helping you understand why you can't or why that feels hard for you when it seems so easy. And we spend a lot of time helping people unpack emotional blocks and looking at their past identities as well.
And I think identity is such a key issue here. It's that the truest form of change, the truest, most sustainable type of change is that identity change. And it doesn't happen straight away. We need to make it easy for ourselves, set ourselves up for success, and start to get a few sort of wins on the board. You know, the more that we make those healthy eating choices, the more our identity changes into I am someone who eats well, rather than, I just can't stick to it. I need my lollies. These are those little stories we tell ourselves is actually how we view ourselves. That is our identity. And they're powerful. On our worst, most stressful day, we will generally revert back to what our identity tells us what we are. And we can change our identity, but it takes a little bit of time. And we need to give ourselves grace there, but also allow ourselves to be consistent as well.
Absolutely. The one thing that people think they need is more motivation. And I get that. It does seem like you think, right, well, I need motivation to change. And if you're anything like me, I just used to wait quite passively for motivation and inspiration to just sort of descend upon me like some, lightning bolt from the Lord above. Right, now I'm ready to go. And I used to say to myself, I'm just waiting for the switch to flick. I just had no understanding of what made that switch flick or what I was actually waiting for. I just was waiting.
Motivation is extremely helpful. Don't get me wrong. It's just not particularly helpful for long-term health and wellness. Motivation is great to, get you to sit down and cram for the exam tomorrow. It's great to make an unfit person run 1,500 meters in the airport to catch the plane as they're calling their name over the loudspeaker. But it's not going to make that same person go, for a jog every day. We can't rely on motivation because it's an emotion, and emotions don't last. All emotions come and go. You feel happy for a while, then you don't. You feel sad for a while, then you don't. You feel motivated for a while, then you don't. But the good news is we don't need to rely on motivation. When you can set yourself up right, motivation can come and go. You can ride it when it's there and love it and find it very helpful, but you don't need it when it's not there.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great way to look at it. Motivation is like an amplifier for what you're already doing. So if you've got sort of the steps you take on your least motivating days, then you just do them regardless. And then days where you feel more motivated, you can do bigger things or more things if you want to. And so that then takes away the all or nothing trap and turns it into the all or something phenomena.
That's right. All or something is definitely what we need. It's about small steps, and our brains just can sometimes hate the concept of small steps. You think about, I just need to change my health. I'm pre-diabetic. I'm overweight. I hate where I am. Everything's got to change. And then someone like you or me comes along and says, we can help you change. let's start small. Let's start really, really, really small. Let's just think of the smallest little step. So small your brain can't argue with it. Your brain will definitely want to argue with it.
It'll say that's not big enough. That's not going to do anything. Why would I do that? I'm not doing that.
Totally. I need to overhaul everything by this afternoon. Come on. But small steps do work, and they compound really quickly, far more quickly than compound interest in the bank. They compound quickly to quite dramatic change in quite short periods of time if you can embrace them.
Yeah. And I would say that the number one things the small steps need is actually patience from our brain to recognize that this is the solution. This is the way forward. This is the thing that will help. But it's tricky because we've been conditioned to believe that we need to go harder, faster, stronger, and, we'll get there, wherever there is, quicker.
Yep, that doesn't work. It's like that image of someone, two ladders reaching up into the clouds, and those lofty heights is your goal. One ladder has got lots of little rungs all really close together, and the person can just scurry up those tiny little runs one at a time, and is halfway up to the clouds before the other person has said, no, I need to make big change. And the rungs of the ladder are really, really far apart, and they're jumping as hard as they can to try and reach the first one. The other person has got up the ladder before they've even made it onto the first run. Little changes work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing I think people need to get help with is understanding their barriers to change. So sometimes what seems like a simple step, like your brain is saying, well, this is a little step and I still can't even do this. I am really useless. Is then going, okay, well, if it's such a small step, then what is my barrier here? What is the reason? And you do it, kindly and with some compassion, not yelling at yourself because that doesn't work. But you ask yourself, what is the actual reason here that I'm not doing the thing I want to be doing? Curiosity, as we've spoken about many times, is the key to personal development. Sometimes you need to map this out with, a friend. It might be a therapist, might be a counselor, might be in our coaching calls, might be in a journal. Getting out of your head and into a bit of clear space can be really useful. But it's unpacking this, unlayering, unwrapping, all of these things, rather than just saying to yourself, well, just do it. Because that's good for a slogan, Nike, but it doesn't always work.
No, especially not in this domain.
No, I'll give you a little example. I did a little reel the other day on Instagram. If any of you are listening to our podcast and don't follow us on Instagram, just head over to Real Life Medicine because we do post there quite often. And I was telling a story about the early morning sunshine. So, we've spoken many times about getting sunlight into your eyeballs in the morning. It's seemingly easy, like we're getting out of bed, we're making our coffee, and the next step is to take that coffee outside. So that is pretty easy. And I had trouble doing it. And I had to unpack why. And so I'll just quickly run through the steps in my mind. So the first step was, right, go outside. Okay, that's easy. Well, and again, many of you know now I've got muscular dystrophy and mobility is actually not that easy for me. So the thing that I was saying to my brain, it's easy, go outside, do it. Well, my other part of my brain was going, yeah, well, it's not that easy. And you fell over last year hopping outside. So, I don't really want you to go outside. It's not very safe. There's that word. So then I thought, okay, right. Well, then use your scooter, Lucy. You've got a scooter, go outside with the scooter. My other part of my brain goes, yeah, good idea. All right, so we'll do that. So then I thought, okay, I'll do that. Well, as I'm trying to get out the door, there's a step. I'm clunking down the step. My coffee's going everywhere. I just thought, this is rubbish. I don't want to do this. So we put a little wedge in for the step to turn it into a ramp. Great. This will be perfect. No problem. Still scoot down. Even with a ramp, I was still spilling my coffee. Plomp, plomp, plomp. And then my brain's going, well, you could go outside without the coffee. And, there's this little chat. I'm sure all of you do this. And then the other part of my brain's going, well, why would you want to go outside without a coffee? I mean, honestly, coffee is lovely. You might as well take it with you. Oh, all right. And so then I thought, well, I need to put the coffee into the little trolley of my scooter so that I'm not holding it. So it needs a lid. So a few keep cups later, because the first keep cup fell over and spilled everywhere, the second keep cup that I found had a great lid and a good seal. So I was able to put that in, take it outside, and pop it onto my table and sit outside. So all of this troubleshooting has now meant that I can go, right, this is my new routine. I get up, I make the coffee into the fancy keep cup, scoot outside and sit. And then, I've got a little table out there. I sit out there for, 10 minutes, getting my morning sunlight and drinking my coffee. It's amazing, isn't it, that something that could go from not doing to doing took a number of steps and some actual breaking down. But I tell you what didn't work was just me telling myself, oh, for God's sake, Lucy, get outside. It's not that hard. What are you carrying on for? Just do it. Really, come on. That didn't work.
That self-beration, it rarely does. That's a beautiful example of how you broke it down. And there were emotional blocks as well as physical blocks there. And you recognized them, thought about them, problem solved them, and came up with a solution. And I think for many of us, our barriers are going to be more subtle than the ones that you had to overcome there to have your coffee outside in the morning. But the process is the same. It's still just getting curious and asking yourself, why am I having the toast with cream cheese and honey every morning? Like, this is not what I want to do. I've made my little breakfast muffins, or I've got my bacon and eggs, or I've, got ingredients for hemp seed porridge, and yet I'm still doing this. Just asking yourself why, being curious, and then without self-judgment, trying to experiment with different solutions. And experimenting is the key. You might not get it right the first time. That doesn't mean the process is useless. You might have to keep trying.
Absolutely. And, we talk a lot about making the right thing easy, or the helpful thing easy and the unhelpful thing hard. So, to borrow from James Clear, make the cue for the helpful behavior obvious and remove cues for unhelpful behavior. So even in something like the toast with cream cheese and honey, it may be initially that you need to not have those products available to you. That doesn't mean you have to not have them in the house ever again forever, but sometimes just to put a circuit breaker in, you just remove them at the first instance and make the unhelpful thing harder, and the helpful thing, whatever it is that you want to do, make it easier. So, this is troubleshooting small steps. Small steps are so much easier to do than ginormous overhauls. And when you get the small steps nailed, like you unpack your barrier to them, you make the cue easier, you make the right thing helpful, the unhelpful thing less obvious. If that then becomes cemented into your routine and you just do it without even realizing it, just then becomes what is technically what a habit is, an unconscious or subconscious behavior. And so it just becomes then part of your subconscious behavior, which is what we want, isn't it?
Yeah. And if you do that for, a little while, then your brain starts to learn, I am someone who eats a healthy breakfast. I am someone who's eating a healthy breakfast. Hey, I'm still eating a healthy breakfast. And then all of a sudden you become a person who eats healthy breakfast. And then that becomes your default. The truest type of change is that identity change. And breakfast is just one example. We can get that true identity change in all areas of life that we want to make meaningful changes for ourselves. So knowing doing GAP is definitely not your fault. It's not about willpower, motivation, being weak, being useless. It really is about skills and support, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, identifying the issue, even breaking the barriers down. Again, we use small steps to do the helpful thing. You can break barriers down into small steps. What are the all of the components of all of these barriers. And you just keep chipping away at them till suddenly there are no more barriers and you go, okay, this is easy. So this is, getting really granular and really specific rather than just saying I need to kick up the pants, because I can tell you now that will not work.
No, definitely not in the long term. With our new revamped program that is launching now, My Metabolic Action Plan, we help people get really specific on their goals. We really help people close that gap for good, really, that the knowing doing gap is closed so that it can be easy. And we focus very heavily on implementation. So it's definitely not just about learning. It is about doing. So if you'd want to check out more, go to the link will be in the show notes, but check out rlmedicine.com/map, MAP, for more details.
Indeed. And turn that knowing into doing, because knowledge is great. You need the right knowledge, but it actually, you need to implement. All right, lovelies, we will talk to you next week. Take good care of your beautiful selves. The information shared on the Real Health and Weight Loss podcast, including show notes and links, provides general information only. It is not a substitute, nor is it intended to provide individualised medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor can it be construed as such. Please consult your doctor for any medical concerns.